Hi, I'm Tanvi, and in my free time, I like to watch quasi-organizing shows.
Perfect. So, hello everyone. This is Tanvi Sriramaneni. She's a senior at Syracuse University in upstate New York, about 4 hours from New York City, majoring in architecture. Today, we'll be hearing more from her about the choices she's made, lessons she's learned along the way, as well as just advice and insights to young high school students like yourself listening to the podcast as you prepare for this upcoming and exciting next phase of your life called university. So, welcome to University Unraveled. I'm your host, Arya the Road. I currently study at Minerva University. Welcome, Tanvi, and I'm excited to have this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Would love to start with the passion for architecture itself. Were there specific experiences or projects that sort of taught you that this was the field you wanted to get into and pursue full time?
I think like always as a kid, I was interested in the design field, whether it was like interior design or architecture or anything. I was mostly interested in interior design as a kid. Um, but then like recently when I started thinking about colleges, I thought architecture would be like a better degree to have because I can always branch out into interior design or like literally anything else. Architecture, like that's what it does. It like provides such a good degree for you. Um, so yeah, like slowly like from interior design got into architecture and now I'm really loving it. So yeah.
Awesome. And so I remember I just a couple weeks ago I got Prakya on the podcast, and Prakya is also in architecture. For her, it's the parents who are both architects.
Yeah.
Not wrong. That's not the case with you. Was there a specific person who exposed you to architecture? I mean, how did you get exposed in the first place to the field?
Yeah, not my parents, but I think when I try to remember, I think someone else like keeps asking me like, how did you even get into it if you have no exposure? But I think when we first when we moved into our current house, the I think the architect like she kind of inspired me a lot, like interior design I guess mostly. So Bridget Rao, she inspired me a lot to like maybe this is something that I want to do in the future. I mean I was like a little kid, but yeah, I'm glad that it's like stuck with me since then. And then like seeing our house get renovated now, it like my okay, this is like a good, it's like reassuring that it's like a good career field actually.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. So if I probably am a good host here because I honestly have like a net zero background knowledge. So I might be asking you some very basic questions about architecture, but that'll probably clarify a lot of confusions even for a listener.
Yeah.
So you said you can do an architecture degree and then either go into architecture or go into interior design. Am I correct? Like both the paths are open.
Yeah, like a lot of the especially in like abroad it might be it's quite a little different, but in India you get a lot of like if you do residential, that's what I started that like I was interested in. So if you do residential, you mostly get interior design projects, especially in a big city like this, because it's all like you already like unless you're working with a developer or something. So usually a lot of architects like they have interior design services as well, just because it's like something that people like their clients want. Um, but yeah, like if I do architecture like undergrad, I can always do a master's in something else that's like a little more niche that like I'm interested in. Right now, I'm thinking about either like interior design, furniture design, or even like production design for movie sets and stuff. So it's like pretty vast what you can do with your architecture degree because it gives you like so much um, information, like and knowledge about the entire design field.
Hmm. Correct. So correct me if I'm wrong. It's 5 years of undergrad to get the license plus 2 years of
Yeah.
masters, specializing in some niche of architecture.
Yeah. So license, you do if you want to do 5 years, then you can just immediately apply for license. Like license, it's all different. It's like different everywhere. In the US, you have to get like a certain amount of hours to get your license and take exams and stuff. But to even be considered to write exams or your hours to be considered, you need to be at a 5-year architecture program to like write those exams. if you're at a 4-year architecture program, you need to do a master's again to be able to write those exams. So it's like mostly to be, if you want to be licensed architect, that too in the US, like if you don't want to move back wherever after, but yeah, it's like a little different in the UK and stuff, and even here, like in India, it's all like pretty different, but yeah.
Interesting. No, thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll move on to the university specifically. So, Syracuse University. One, I'm curious what appealed to you, and two, I just personally felt like the location was a very interesting location. I know you're a bit far from New York City itself.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of beautiful architecture in New York. So, part two to the question is: was location a big factor in choosing Syracuse as the university?
It honestly wasn't for me at all. I applied to like colleges all over the US. I wasn't specific that I wanted to be on the East Coast. But I was mainly just looking at what kind of program I thought would like best suit me. Um, and I thought just like Syracuse, it had like everything I wanted. I didn't want like a only art school. I did apply to only art school, but like after like realizing like I wanted like a school where there was like other majors, like other like, a little more diversity and stuff. Um, but yeah, I didn't really factor in the location. Now that I went there, I'm like maybe I should have. It's like it's like a college town, so there's not much to do there. But and yeah, it's like a 4-hour drive to the city, so it's pretty long. But it's not like there's always something to do over the weekend or anything on campus, so it's not like horrible. But it's just like the city is like it's like a very small town. So moving from like a big city like Hyderabad to like such a small town, that was a bigger change than what I thought it would be. But something you get used to fairly quickly, I think.
Interesting. I personally believe like there's a lot of in university there's a lot of value in interacting with students who are majoring in completely different fields versus you.
Yeah.
Something you brought up. Let's double down on that. Can you say a little more about why specifically you wanted to be in a university with, as you said, different majors versus going to a school where it was just an art school or more filled with architecture majors? Like, how does that make your experience any different?
So, okay, going into an architecture school, I knew that it was going to be a lot of work and you'd always be surrounded with architecture students. And I thought that might be a little too overwhelming if you're in an art school. Like, even if it's a different majors, like, there's so many different majors in the design and art field, but I didn't want to just like, be truly like shot at, and I wanted to do like a big, like a pretty big school. Syracuse is like, I guess it's like mid-size, it's not too big. But I wanted that like proper college campus. And like I wanted like a big like sports culture in the school. So there was a lot of those things that the art schools didn't have. And the art schools that I applied to were like Pratt and Savannah College of Art and Design, and those are like kind of in the cities. So it's not like a proper like college campus. But yeah, it was like, so I think that was like the only major difference. I wanted to like meet more people, not just in the design field. And if I wanted to do something else, like now I'm minoring in real estate, so I'm not sure what those opportunities would have been at art school.
Yeah, interesting, valid. In terms of the application process specifically, so I'm a traditional business economics major. Ours was untraditional application with the grades, extracurriculars, essays, etc. Was yours similar, or did you have some sort like I know arts majors have submit like a portfolio of work. Did you have something along those lines for your major?
Yeah, so it was like portfolios, and then some like asked for more essays like for the art school. Like yeah, so like all the universities kind of asked for different requirements in the art portfolio, like sketching, painting, like those are kind of standard. But they asked for like perspective drawings and stuff. But I tried to like experiment as much as I could with different mediums in my portfolio. Um, I can't even remember now. I did like a lot. I started my portfolio 2 years before I started applying.
Wow.
So it's just like all the pieces that kept like, so I would have a variety to choose from, especially if they're all asking for like different stuff in their portfolios. Um, but yeah, it's like I think that's like the only major difference. Some I know one school asked for like they gave a prompt and they like designed something based on that prompt. Um, they, I think a lot of them want to know like how you're using spatial like design in your art. So I think that's like an important thing to consider. But yeah, it was mostly just the portfolio, which is a lot of work. Um, Especially with the essays and like all the other. Usually, like for us, like I did IB, so it was like everything, like the IAs, everything like stacked on top of the college essays. But I was like glad I started the portfolio earlier. So it was like something I didn't have to stress about that much, and it was like ready to roll out whenever the deadlines came along.
So sounds like if someone is interested in actually pursuing architecture in undergrad, it's good to start the portfolio around beginning of 11, end of 10,
Yeah,
as early
definitely.
as you can.
Yeah, as early as you can, and like you can just like keep practicing, and then like some pieces I didn't even think were gonna end up in my portfolio, like they fit the requirements perfectly, so they just went in. So it's just like starting like archiving all your work like that, even from like whenever, like from ninth grade. If you just start, like I'm sure in like art classes and stuff, like you can just like start archiving your work, so you'll get like a bigger portfolio and like more pieces to choose from.
Having gone through the whole portfolio creation process and submitted the application, if you were now to be speaking directly to someone listening who's interested in doing architecture in the US for undergrad, any specific tips or best practices when making their portfolio?
Um, I think, like I said, like have a lot of perspectival sketches. That is what they look for. Um, and like having consistency in those, not just like having one really good one, but like having like five really good ones of like, even if it's like sketches, but like, I mean, paintings, but like perspectives and like, I know before I sent out my applications, there's like, I can't remember from who, but there was like a portal where I could submit my portfolio and like all the different art schools were like reviewing them. So I got back a few emails from like people like from professors then who were like reviewing those portfolios from all these different art schools, and they were kind of saying make sure you have variety, but also not like every piece is a different medium where it doesn't show you're consistent. Like you can have like out of 20 pieces, like you can have like 10 pieces that are all different, but if you really like one, like enjoy that, like have like two or more of those same pieces like in that same medium, so you have like you show that that's your, you can like, so when people are reviewing your portfolio, they'll know what you're interested in. And a lot of my paintings and like sketches and stuff were of buildings, so I didn't say I was an architecture major, like applying for architecture when I submitted my portfolio. So they could like, they kind of got the gist that I was interested in architecture and like that was what I was really passionate about. So I think showing what you're really passionate about and also being consistent, but also like having more, like exploring and learning as much as you can through the process is really important.
So, like a balance between diversity, like they want to see you're into multiple mediums, but also not like 20 artworks which are all different mediums.
Yeah.
Show that you have a focus area of one or two mediums.
Yeah, like, yeah, show that you can be like, you are consistent in whatever you are interested in, because at the end of the day, that's what they want. And like, when you like start a 4 or 5 year program.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Would love to walk through the process, the mental process, as well as like practically how that played out of just finalizing that final list of maybe 15, 20 colleges. Plus, apart from the official website, what are other good ways to just research a college or get to know more about a university and its program?
I think my list, I was kind of just like, obviously like the basic like safety, reach, and targets. Those are always like how you base them off, how you base your list off of that. But let's see, I think like I did have, because I still didn't know when I was applying for those colleges that I wanted like an only like not an art school, but I applied to a few art schools, not all of them. So I still kept like a little leverage if I did change my mind, which I did end up changing my mind. But so like having that balance, um, and I think like yes, the list was like one of the main, and it's like there's so many different lists, so it's also like, and they all say different things. Um, so but I think just like going to the websites and seeing like the different courses, like I know at least for Syracuse they have all the different courses that you're supposed to take, because for us it's like a set number of classes that, like the architecture classes are all just set and you don't really get like, electives and stuff for architecture classes. So like seeing what kind of like how the course is built around those, how the course is like incorporates like the studio classes, like structures, systems, and like we architecture at Syracuse is like part of like it is. I mean, it's like a STEM course, so it has like also structures and system classes and stuff. So I think just like classes, and then like university, like what you want. Like I know for some people, like they don't want like a too big of a university, or like some people don't want anything like super small. So I guess like the best way I think is just like courses, and then like seeing what kind of like who the faculty and stuff work there at the university, and that's like all on the university websites. I think that's also a great source, rather than just like basing off like you were going to apply for the top 20 architecture schools from one website. That's
I think honestly, at least for Minerva, I can't speak for other universities, but I've had like juniors who are actually emailing professors at Minerva. Like we have a whole web page which is just each Minerva prof, a small description of their work, their research, their background, plus their email ID. So I have students who actually get on calls with like let's say a computer science professor if they want to do computer science at Minerva, and that gives them a good insight into Minerva, the program itself, the professor him or herself. So that's definitely very valuable beyond just looking at the course, like the people who are teaching you the course. Um, Again, basic question. I have no background knowledge, but like over the 5 years, what's a high level overview of what your architecture course covers in terms of different subject areas?
So there's like a standard, like I said, like the school gives you like courses that you just have to take every semester, and they build like the study abroad program, directive research around these courses. So like first 3 years, or like first like 4 5 semesters, you do like actually like until like your fifth year, you do a studio course that's like 6 hours, 3 days a week. Um, yeah, it's like a big chunk of our course. Like it's a 6 credit course. If ours is like all the other classes are 3 credits, this is 6 credits. So it's like it is a big chunk of like your time and your grade. And it's like but I think that's like the one course where you really like show like you can like let out all your creativity you get. It's like you work on a project every semester. They give you like, this is the site, these are the what you want to like kind of focus on, like and they like, so they kind of give you a set requirements, and it's like you like I think after, for every 20 students you get one professor. And it's just like a studio, so you're designing like your project basically, and you make like working drawings, you make like renders, so you kind of like see it like towards the end, like you make 3D models, and then at the end of the semester you present it like as it's your proposal for that site, to like a list, like a jury. So that's like one course every semester. And then there's like a bunch of other classes, like there's like architectural history, theory, like I said, structures, systems. Yeah, I think that's like the majority of it. Yeah, And then like there's like obviously like space for you to take other like credits, like explore anything that like you're interested in. I had my first semester I did a sociology course. Second semester I did like a forensic anthropology course. Like I just wanted to like see what it was. It was already like a lot of architecture, so I was like, let me just like take a break from like architecture and just like do something fun that I'm even like remotely interested in to see like um yeah. And then so now I'm like minoring in real estate, so my electives kind of go towards my open electives go towards that um like that minor. So I have like accounting, finance, entrepreneurship, like real estate investment. Like so there's a lot of like so if you like the first few classes, if you take like first few like semesters, if you take like electives that you're a little interested in, then you can say like you want to minor in that and like take more classes like surrounding that like minor. So it's like I think it's pretty flexible, and it's nice that they give you like a structured like um set of classes, because I know for other majors they kind of like they're confused on how to like build their entire semester, get how many all the credits that they need to graduate. For us, like this, they do that for us because you need to be on like a specific like path towards, because the last fifth year is your directed research, um, and I haven't gone there yet, so I'm not fully sure what that is because they just changed it last year. Um, but yeah, I think it's like pretty flexible. It's like you get a good balance between architecture and like anything else that you're interested in. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to see if there's any other classes, but I think that's mostly covers it. And they like build it into our study abroad program. So like our study abroad program is built into our course. So I guess that's another reason why I wanted to choose Syracuse, their study abroad program. But yeah.
Perfect. We're being candid, so I want to ask you just a very raw question. You have studio classes which are super practical and hands-on, and that's from what you said. I think there's a lot of value in the classes, even getting feedback from the professor. Versus you have like super theoretical classes, architecture theory, architecture history. Are those classes like too theoretical according to you? Like, are they irrelevant to the actual work you'll be doing, or still necessary?
I think like the theory classes I was always like super interested in, because like once you're an architect, like I feel like that's just basic knowledge that architects know. And obviously like building systems, structures, even if you don't enjoy them, they're like classes you just have to take. Structures I actually enjoyed quite a bit, but systems, like I don't think I learned that much from it. But yeah, I guess it's just something that you need to know if you want to become, because it's like these kind of courses, especially 5-year one, the accredited ones, like they I don't they kind of like design the course so that you take your license, you get your license, I think. So it's like all like the information, like they kind of, so it's like geared towards that, and all those tests that you have to take for the license. But yeah, it's like different people have different preferences. I know a lot of my friends really didn't like theory classes and stuff, but and you only have to take like one a semester, so they don't like really burden you with it, I think. Yeah.
I have friends who are super artsy, but sort of will run away from math and physics. So from the little you said, I feel like there's some element of math and some element of physics and just engineering in your coursework. How heavy is that? And can someone get into architecture while not enjoying math and physics?
Yeah, I didn't enjoy math and physics, but I wanted to do architecture. I was interested in like the more of like the design aspect of it than obviously like the technical aspect. And if you are interested in more, so that's what like people said. They said if you're interested in more of the design, go to an art school. Technical, go to like there's more like Carnegie Mellon and stuff, where it's like really like technical, like science, like math and physics based. That's why I wanted like a school that's like in between. So it's not super heavy. I think the last time I was on like I was on campus, I did have to take like structures and systems both at the same time. But yeah, I think like they teach it to you like pretty easily. They teach it to you as if you're like new to like physics. So you get like a, so it's not super hard. If you're not even, if like you're not great at physics, it's fine. Like they'll teach it to you like from the beginning, basically.
Perfect. Okay, that's reassuring.
Uh,
If to anyone who's
yeah,
artsy but maybe not super mathsy or
yeah,
um, we touched upon this briefly, but I just want to really clarify the theory versus practical balance in your course. So it sounds like you have the theory classes, but you have the studio classes. If you were to give a ratio or just a general number, is it a lot more practical or is it a lot more theory in terms of your overall course?
definitely a lot more practical because of our studio courses. That is where you will be spending like a lot of your time in studio working on all these projects because deadlines are pretty like tight with everything, especially um, with the other architecture classes. They tend to like pile up on top of each other, and it's like you're just doing architecture deadlines, so that's like a little um, tough to like handle, but definitely more practical based, I think, than theory. But yeah, like I think the studio courses are kind of like they're fun. Like you can be as creative as you want, um, especially your first 2 years. They want, but then I think once you get into your third year, they like look at like a little more of the technical side of the projects, like where's the sun falling on the site, where's the wind coming from, like all that kind of stuff, and like what kind of like glazing should be used, like so it gets like obviously a lot more technical as you go up, but the first 2 years are like you can be like as creative as you want, I think. Yeah.
Mm. I'm just curious, over whatever you studied so far, is there a lot of integration of like different softwares you use during your courses, and do you learn how to use like AutoCAD, Blender, softwares like that when you're designing your structures?
Yeah, so we use Rhino for the most of it, which is um like a mix of AutoCAD and Blender, I guess. Like it is, you can make drawings on it, but you can also like make 3D, like make 3D of your entire project on it. Um, but they teach you the basics. They're not going to teach you like the entire software and like everything you can do with it, obviously, because there's so much to do with it. But they'll teach you the basics, and then like I'm still learning it as I go. Like there's like new like commands and like new things like and, like faster ways to do stuff that I used to do. Um, but yeah, there's like Rhino, and then we use Illustrator and Photoshop a lot. I think those are the main, and like InDesign for like portfolios and stuff. Mm, and then like rendering softwares. Um, there's a lot. Like even those like we learn as we go. Like V-Ray, Lumion. Like there's a lot. But I think like Rhino, InDesign, Photoshop, and Illustrator are what we use like our first year. Um, and yeah, they teach you the basics of it. They do not like one thing I'm still struggling with is like learning Revit, and that is what all the firms look for when you're applying for internships. So I think like that's one thing that you just have to like learn on your own, um, download it and learn it on your own. But that's like once you get into college, I think for people applying to college right now, that's not something they have to worry about. Um, and I do think it's like different college wise because I was talking to someone who graduated from Pratt like a long time ago, and she was saying that like they never taught her any of the software tools. So I think it's just like different from college to college. But yeah,
Perfect. I'm sure, like even when you're doing the internships and when you're applying to even positions after you graduate, I'm sure like some level of familiarity with such softwares gives you an edge over an architecture
yeah, definitely.
isn't exposed to such a software. So whether they teach it to you in college or not, I'm like maybe summer is a good time to refine your skills with such softwares. I'm sure online there's tons of tutorials available
Yeah,
to learn. But
yeah, definitely.
perfect. I'll come back to something you said a little while ago, which is that just to give yourself a break from the architecture classes, you took these electives, sociology, anthropology, a couple of business classes because of your real estate minor. I love talking about elective classes just because I feel like it adds diversity to the student versus you just take architecture classes for 5 years. From any or even multiple of these classes, did you learn something which you then applied in like an architecture course or an architecture work and you were like, aha, this is an interesting connection between the two fields? Any such examples?
I think mostly from I realized like the sociology and like my um like history and theory classes, there is like a lot of overlap. Not a lot, but like I did was like, oh yeah, that's like they talk about the same things. I think it's just like because sociology, we learned a lot about how like suburbs like started in America and like why they started like redlining and all of that, and then like that's obviously something we cover in our history and theory classes as well.
Mm.
So just like little stuff like that, I think mostly, but yeah, I don't think it was like that much of an overlap. Um, but yeah.
Coming to the real estate minor, the business courses, where's the overlap there with, let's say, your accounting classes, your entrepreneurship classes? Where does that combine? Even if not now, but like in terms of the work you're trying to do in the future, where do you see like the overlap?
I know like looking into it now because I am looking for like a real estate internship now, and a lot of like the big real estate companies have like also integrated like design services with like the office spaces they're trying to lease and stuff. Like they provide like design solutions. So I think that's like a pretty big overlap, not with architecture, I guess, but like with interior design and stuff.
Mm.
Um, yeah, that's like I think, and I think as I take more classes, I'll also understand more. I've only taken entrepreneurship and accounting so far, but yeah, I think there will like as I learn more about it, there's going to be a lot of overlap.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure. And I'm sure even once you get into the world of work, maybe something from the sociology class will click even while you're
I'm
doing
sure.
it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like such electives, you never know when they'll pay off, and like it could be a fun class, and it could just be a break from the regular schedule. But I feel like you'll pick up some very interesting concepts apart from your field, which sometime later in life might just click. So no harm, and I always encourage people like please explore areas beyond just what you're majoring in. We'll talk a little about study abroad because that's also something you mentioned about drawing you to Syracuse. Um, Honestly a little jealous because London is a city I've always dreamed of visiting. It was part of Minerva's rotation and then they cancelled it. So now London is
Oh no.
up for us. But hopefully from Berlin, we'll get a chance to visit. But I'm sure it was an interesting um, look at like a very different architecture style. So specifically from your perspective as an architectural student, what was the experience in London like?
It was like really great, honestly. Like it was so different from Syracuse because you're like back in a city, um, and it was just like it was kind of like very easy to apply to because it is built into our architecture program. Like,
Mm.
so your third year, second semester, and your fourth year, first semester, you go abroad. Um, you also have the opportunity to like stay on campus or like so you can go to New York City, Florence, London, or stay on campus. So I was lucky to get London and then Florence next semester. Um, but yeah, it was like really fun. And like you said, like this one we were actually able to go to the site multiple times, learn from like being in a big city, it gave me so many more opportunities, like um to understand how to design what I was designing. We were designing like a skate park, like a park for like wheel sports basically. and there were like so many like lectures in like there's like a design museum where they had like the skateboarding lecture, and it's just like how do you design for um like these kind of wheeled sports, because it's completely different than just like a park, like BMXing, like all that, like, and it was just like stuff like that where you wouldn't have gotten the same opportunity in Syracuse, and like a smaller city obviously, but in such a big city there's always something going on. So it's like you get those kind of opportunities. And it was like, yeah, it was really amazing. The school also took us, as a part of our architecture classes, took us to like Dublin, Stockholm, Barcelona. So it was like, yeah, it was a really great opportunity. And there's also a lot of scholarships, if and like financial aid that the school would provide, um, if you like don't have the finances for it. But I think, yeah, it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure just a change in environment is valuable. Like maybe you're spending the other 4 years in your case on campus at Syracuse. I'm sure just new people, new environment, new profs, new style of architecture is also a welcome break, plus a
Yeah,
beautiful learning opportunity. Um,
yeah,
I feel like I'll come back to London because I feel like there's still a little more to say about London and study abroad in general. If you, leaving aside the fact that you're an architecture student, just the fact that you're a 19, 20-year-old college student in London, can you talk us through that experience in terms of just personal growth, meeting new people, experiencing a new culture, making new friends? Why was that important for you?
yeah. I think for me, like, definitely when I came back, like I was more independent. Like I thought, like going to Syracuse, obviously you're like going away from your family, like moving, and you've become pretty independent. But I think being in a big city like London allowed me to um, kind of just like enjoy time with myself, because
Mm.
there's so much to do, so much to see, like architecture and stuff. Like you just keep walking, and it's just like, so that was, I guess, a little bit of self growth. And then like the classes that you take there are just like so much more different than what you would take at um, home, like at Syracuse. Um, like I did like a London museums class, so they take us to all the museums in London like every week.
Uh,
Um, and that was like super fun because like museum culture is like massive in London.
mm.
So there's like a lot of classes like that, and I think even in Florence there's like a ton of different classes. Like um, I think there's like a cooking class and stuff. So it's just like you don't get to experience that staying at like your home school, like in Syracuse. But yeah,
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. No, I just wanted to double down on that, both
yeah,
from an academic perspective and from a self-growth perspective. Like study abroad is invaluable. I think it's always
yeah,
good to like just reach out, ask about the study abroad programs your school has. As you said, apply early, take the chance. I think it's also an important factor when choosing a university itself. Like some universities,
yeah, definitely.
like in your case, guarantee the study abroad. For some, it's a very selective process. Could be one potential factor in choosing it. I know it was a factor for me when choosing Minerva. It's just the fact that we're moving to so many different cities. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
university summer is, so let's say in my case, university summer is double the time of a high school summer. So we've got about a 3.5, 4 month summer, which I've heard is pretty common for a US university. That's about a third of the year. So that's like not a joke. That is a lot of time. Um,
yeah,
and I know for students, especially after freshman year, it becomes daunting as to how to spend the 4 months well. So, would love part one is would love to walk through just how you spend your university summers so far. Part two is apart from internship, any other creative ideas about how to spend a summer well.
yeah. I think so. Like what I've done in the past, like past summers, first summer after, um, like my first summer after freshman year, I did an internship with an interior designer in Hyderabad, which was like, I think it was pretty like, it was fun. Like I kind of understood what that was and how like work life and like just getting some work experience basically, I think was great. And then like going into it, I knew I wanted to explore as much as I can outside of just architecture, seeing like anything that piques my interest so that if there's something that I'm really interested in, I can do it after I graduate, like potentially do a master's in if I wanted. Um, so first year I did interior design, some internship. Second year, like interior design, I enjoyed it, but I was like, I think like I want to obviously try something else. So I interned with a production designer,
Okay.
Sabu Cyril, in Hyderabad as well, and he is like a really big designer, so it gave me a lot of work experience, I think. And that one, like more than I thought, you use a lot of architecture, whatever I was learning in school. Um, and that was really interesting because it moves at a much faster pace, and you're working, like at least for me, I was working on the set, like on site. So I was like every day I would like see whatever I'm producing, like working drawings for like the next week or so, like you would actually see it come to life. um so and then I realized that I liked like that faster pace
Mm.
of work, because interior design, like I was just like, you're sitting at it like in a room like with a desk, like in front of your computer the whole day, like making mood boards and that kind of stuff. um so it was like a little different, obviously. Like I enjoyed like being out more, like seeing all the progress. And site visits, like they're obviously like interior design, you get to do site visits,
Mm.
but yeah, I think I enjoyed like that faster pace a bit more. So this summer I actually applied to do for a retail internship, but I didn't get it. So I came back home to Hyderabad, and I am like looking to intern with a real estate company. Um, and so I think I'm excited to see how that is like different from, obviously it's very different from interior design and production design. Um, but if that doesn't work out, I'm still like I'm freelancing from so I'm using like whatever I learned from my first internship, like creating mood boards, furniture lists, and renders. And I like put out my freelancing services on Fiverr. So I'm doing that. I'm doing like a graphic design course, and one of my um, like cousin is starting like a clothing line, so I'm helping her out with that. So I just wanted to like do as much as I can, learn as much as I can before my final summer to know what exactly I want to do to pursue that in the future. Um, and then to answer your second part, I think obviously like if not an internship, like courses are a great way to like learn more about what you want to do. And then like volunteering is like always, like I feel like the best thing you can do even when you're doing internships. I think it's like great. And then also volunteering in like a sector that you think like would help you with your career, like private sector, like Habitat for Humanity and stuff, is like a great source. I think, yeah.
Yeah, great. And at this point, you do have some amount of work experience over 2 summers, plus you're also starting with the third. Um, any specific skills which in your experience, the classroom wasn't able to teach you, which actual work experience and getting your hands dirty was able to teach you, specifically for an architecture student?
Yeah, I think like you understand, like especially for art, like I was saying, the pace at which the projects move in each like field are completely different. Like interior design would take up to like interior design architecture could take up to like years. But then like seeing like also in architecture, like um retail is like gets out there like much faster than like residential. Um and like all this I've kind of learned while working like production design, like I said, is like you see like such a quick turnaround time. Um and I think like stuff like that made me realize that like that's what I want to do, like retail or like production design, like something with a much faster pace, like something where you can actually see it like come in life in front of you. Um, but yeah, there's like so much, like the softwares that I learned with my internship with the production designer, um, and then like yeah, softwares, and then the interior design internship, that's just obviously like completely different than architecture. Um, so it's like material selections, all of that. Like it's not something like you would learn in school.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was like pretty great experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure, and I'm sure this all adds up once you enter the world of work, when you can claim to have worked in three different areas and you have
Yeah.
a sneak peek, both in terms of experience and exposure, but also in terms of understanding what it is you want to do with your masters or your working world. Because a lot of the times, even this is even true when deciding a major in college. I feel like we think we like something and then we get into it and then we realize
Yeah.
something else is for us. So
Yeah.
better to like fail fast and fail early and like fail forward. Um, you in fact segued into the next question about clubs. Would love to hear about your experience with clubs at Syracuse, as well as a lot of students when joining university. There's a list of, let's say, 50 clubs, half of which might sound cool or interesting. So you've got 25 clubs, but how do you actually narrow down from that long list to just the couple of clubs which you actually join and devote time to? Like, what's the thought process there?
I think like one stuff that you're really interested in, obviously, like, and then like really interested in, not just like, oh, like that might be like a good thing
Mm.
to like join, because it is like a big chunk of your time attending like meetings, like doing the work and stuff. But yeah, I think like something you're really passionate in, and then also I knew like going into architecture, everyone was telling me networking is like how you land jobs. Um, so I knew I wanted to join. So I joined freshman year. Like I joined. I was always interested in like writing. So I was like the features editor for a school magazine my freshman year, and then I was also like um, uh, I was the newsletter editor for like the American Institute of Architecture students. So that's like a good way to network outside, like with alumni, because they like take you on like firm crawls and stuff to like different cities. We went to New York City and Boston. Um, so that's a great way to do it. Um, and then I joined another club, Alpha Rho Chi. It was like a professional fraternity. And that's like more of like networking with like upperclassmen and like getting more of those opportunities and exposure into like the field. Um, but yeah, and then there's always like the South Asian club and stuff. So like stuff like that. Usually like where you think you would want to spend most of your time. Like even if like something seems interesting, um, is that like the very little free time that you get? Is that where you want to be? I think is a good like way to think about it. Um, but yeah.
So I know you said predominantly white institution, but I'm sure you still have people from all over the world and various different cultures. I want to just briefly touch upon just dealing with an international student body, because there's just a lot of nuances when interacting with someone who's from a different culture and country than you. Um, Feel free to share anything that you've learned along the way of just dealing with someone who might come from a very different culture than you, which also maybe potentially leads to you and them having very little common ground. How do you like make them
Yeah,
up?
I think obviously like that is bound to happen with like so many people you meet, especially like freshman year and stuff. Um, and when you're like trying to figure out who to hang out with, like who your friends are and stuff. Um, but I think yeah, just like keeping an open mind, and then like if you're friends, like your friends, if it works out, like that's amazing. Like you're meeting someone new, you're hanging out with someone new. Um, and then as you like go into like different, like as you like go into like second year, third year, like you realize who your friends, like closer friends are, who you actually want to hang out with. And then obviously like all these clubs, if you want to be like in, like I wanted that comfort zone of like always like having like a few South Asian friends, I think was like really amazing, because you're still able to like feel like you're at home. um and there's always usually a club like that, at like any college, I think. If not, start one. Like there will always be someone to join. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I think starting clubs is also a great experience. Like, if there's something which you're interested in, which others around you I feel like they're interested in, not a club offered at the university, I feel like there's a lot of learning and also just initiating it, starting a club, attracting members, being the leader, teaches you a lot of those like softer skills which the classroom won't teach you. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
I know you mentioned that networking is a lot of what happens at the clubs, like in terms of meeting seniors, alumni. I want to talk more from the perspective of meeting working architects or like practicing architects in the field. What, how do you make that happen? Like, what does that sort of networking look like for you, especially in a college town?
Um, so like I said, like the two clubs, like they take you on firm calls, so you go and visit like these different firms from like really small to like really big firms. Um, and that's a great way to do it. Like always follow up with them after, like connect with them on LinkedIn, like keep in touch. Because that's what will land you your internships. Um, and then also like the school provides us with a lot of these opportunities. They always get like we have like career conversations with um, a lot of the professionals in the field, and we have like lecture series every week. So that's like a really amazing tool to do it. There's like we have like workshops like so last year we did like workshops only in retail design, like retail architecture, and like that's when like it really peaked for like I really want to do retail architecture. So I reached out to the person. So he was like on the real estate team, kind of like um, the development of the flagship stores of Apple in the US. And so he kind of overlooked that whole thing. And it was like a great source. Like I still email him now, keeping him updated on what I'm doing because he was just so helpful with finding internships and connecting me with different companies like that specialize in retail architecture. Like once, so we got him. Like we had like one time the person at Tiffany and Co came, ASAP. So they bring like a lot of different like really great tools to like to explore like your network and like widen your network. But yeah, always follow up with them because you never know when like they'll be like they're always gonna be helpful. And even if they don't land you an internship, like always good to have a career conversation, learn more about them, how they got into the field. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, two things I'll say here. One, no harm in emailing 100 people.
yeah,
Worst case scenario is no one responds, and that is your current scenario. You're not
yeah,
yourself. And two is, I also think it's a fun. Like these are busy people in the working world. If you email 100, maybe 10 respond, and out of that, maybe conservative numbers. But if you email 100, maybe 10 respond, and out of the 10, maybe like two set up a Zoom meeting with you. But you have to email the 100 because you don't know who
yeah,
is going to, let's say, have the meeting. So it's also a funnel in that sense. But I also have been much more engaged with this sort of cold outreach and cold emailing. So I've gotten on interesting Zoom calls with some professionals. I'm assuming for some people listening to the podcast, this is a new concept to them in terms of just emailing someone in a field you're interested in, reaching out, having a Zoom call, having a coffee talk. Um, Maybe it's a new concept to them, but I think it's valuable to introduce even high schoolers to this. Two parts of the question again. One, when you email them, what is the content of that email generally? And two, let's say you actually have a conversation with someone like face to face or over coffee or over a Zoom. What do you talk about?
okay, so one, I think when I just email, I'm like, I'm super interested in what you're doing. Just want to know how they got into it. What made them go from, typically, they're not always like, the school always tries to bring in people who are not, who didn't take the particular like field of just becoming an architect. They do like so much more. So it's like, how did they get into it? What made them decide? So it's like, when you get like, so in an email, I'm just like, it was like great, like hearing you speak at the lecture, whatever. Um, would it be like possible to jump on a Zoom call to just like have a career conversation about the like field that you took, the path that you took? Um, And then yeah, when you get on the meeting, like you ask them all these questions, anything that interests you. They replied. They offered to have a Zoom call because they wanted to answer any of your questions. So just ask them like anything that interests you. And I will say we met. So our school went to meet someone in London, a firm, Asif Khan Architects. He was such like he started like he had no internships. He just directly went out into the field. Any book that he read, anything that he was remotely interested in research or anything, he would just email them. And then if he was like traveling to, I think he said Chicago, he would just reach out to anyone that he was interested in meeting in Chicago and plan his whole itinerary around them.
Wow.
And like he would just meet all these different people. He is so inspiring. I think so. Just like doing that, I think that's the only like I said, architecture is just like networking, networking, networking. But yeah,
I think important to ask like pointed questions, not super broad questions which you could just have like Google. So I think
yeah,
it's important to do your research, do a bit of
yeah,
background fact checking on the person on what they're working on, and I think they as a person are happier to answer pointed questions as well. Um,
yeah.
that's valuable. Um, but yeah, I mean it's we've touched on a lot of ground in the conversation. We started with why Syracuse and why architecture, moved on to study abroad in London, what your courses look like, got into a bit of professional growth beyond academics in terms of networking and clubs. Um, I'll just fast forward a little bit and want to ask you a quick question regarding where you see yourself after graduation potentially.
I don't really know, but I think that's why I'm doing all these internships, like the graphic design course, helping my cousin with like her fashion line, all these like just so I understand, like get a clear view of what I want to do after. Especially going into my final summer for internships. I think, yeah, but not too sure right now.
Perfect. I think that's what the
Yeah,
internships are for. That's what the courses are for. And I'm sure even once you get into the working world, every 2, 3, 5 years, that direction might also change. Like that's just the
yeah,
nature of our generation's work. Um,
yeah.
Perfect. Well, we'll jump into the fast fire round of questions. I wrap up every episode with this. Just a few quick questions I'll be throwing at you, and feel free to also keep your answers brief and just answer in a phrase or a sentence. So, as an architecture student, I have to start by asking you your favorite piece of architecture anywhere in the world.
Um, Casa Batlló in Barcelona. I think.
Is it a
Yeah,
village, a building?
it's a house. Um, it's just like beautiful architecture. Something like you would just never have seen that anywhere else. But yeah,
On the bucket list to someday physically see, I'm assuming.
yes,
Uh,
yeah. We got the opportunity to visit when we went when we from London. Our school took us. Um, but yeah, it was just like beautiful. Like you would never have seen anything like that anywhere else. Yeah.
any myth or stereotype about architecture students or architects or architecture as a course which you would like to bust on the episode?
Um, maybe not like bust, but like I will say, everyone says that you like don't sleep at all. Like your entire architecture, like schooling, like you will not sleep. Like that's half true for some people, but if you just like are just like on top of your work, um, you will get like a good sleep every night. Like maybe like the week before finals and stuff, it will be like on like limited sleep, but I don't think like I think they scare you a little too much before you go in. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you said it for all the students listening who are potentially scared about losing sleep as architecture majors. Um, what's your favorite spot on the Syracuse campus?
Um, we have like a student center, so I think the top floor of that is like a really quiet, like chill place. It's like fully like it has like floor to ceiling windows all over, so it's like and it looks over the quad. So it's just like a super fun place, like people watch, study. Yeah.
Hmm. Perfect. any one dish from home that you missed a lot while at university?
I think like any home cooked food, honestly. Like, uh, yeah, can't pick one dish. Yeah.
A specific architect who maybe it's your dream to intern under them?
I really like David Chipperfield architects. His work is really like inspiring, and I would love to work with him. Yeah.
Awesome. And I'll end with this is more architecture focused, but I'm also assuming listeners are interested in the field. But what's a course which is not taught at university, which you think every architecture student should still take on their own?
Um, I think a lot of architecture, like I said, it is networking, but to also network, you need to have like good communication skills. So I think that's always like something to be great at before you get into the field to network. Maybe not too architecture specific because I don't want to scare people because that's what people did to me. But yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting. That's I wasn't expecting that, but yeah, I mean, I think it's even for any major university is a time where you're just interacting a lot more. I think with a prof, with students, with professionals.
yeah,
It's always good to even spend the summer before university just doing some public speaking, just
yeah,
learn how to
definitely.
communicate. There's definitely tips and tricks and best practices out there. Read books like How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah,
Such a classic.
yeah.
Lastly, if you were to wrap up this episode and leave young listeners with any one piece of its advice or insight or wisdom, what would one message be?
I think wherever you end up is going to be a good time. Like you're going to have a good time. You're going to get a good degree. Um, it doesn't matter if it's like on the top 10 of the list, top 50 of the list, top 100. Like it's going to be a good school. Um, so I think don't be too scared um, about the entire application process. Like it is a really daunting process, but I think, yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, great episode. I know we did get a little specific into architecture, but especially for someone interested in architecture, similar field, I'm sure there's a lot of super practical, valuable tips and insights. I personally learned a lot about architecture, which might come up in a conversation I have with any of my friends who's in the field. So beautiful. If a listener enjoyed the episode a ton and is eager to connect or has follow up questions, what's a good way to reach you?
Yeah, they can reach me on Instagram at Tanvi Sriramaneni or email me at tanvi.varshini@gmail.com. But yeah, thank you for having me. It's I'm sure when I was applying for college, this would have been a great tool to use before knowing where to apply before going to college.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the I'm trying my best to create a podcast which I would have liked to listen to as a 11th grader, and so we didn't have these resources. But I hope that it's useful for listeners. And this is like straight from the mouth of students like us who have gone through the process, been there, done that, made the mistakes. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping this is valuable. But thank you so much for your wise words on University Unraveled, and honestly, a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that was the episode. To all the young listeners out there, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you feel more energized, inspired, and curious for the exciting university journey that lies ahead. Stay tuned. Many more wonderful episodes to be released on Uni Unveiled across a diversity of majors, countries, institutions, and speaker profiles. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Uni Unveiled. This podcast is just a small part of a much larger initiative undertaken by my family called Serene Strokes to spread positive sparks of growth, transformation, and joy among all our audience. Check out our official website www.serenestrokes.com. In the description and comments, please feel free to share other topics and questions which you would love to hear about from our different speakers on this podcast. Until then, take care and remember that this big word, university, may not be as scary or as intimidating as you think it is. Thank you for listening to Uni Unveiled.